Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2012 National Presidential Nominating Convention of the Green Party of the United States, gp.org. My name is Scott McLarty. I am the National Media Coordinator for the party. The other National Media Coordinator is Starlene Rankin. I want to introduce her. And if you have any questions at all during this weekend, please talk to one of us. We can help you out. We're about to begin an introductory press conference for the convention right now. And I'll tell you very quickly about the upcoming press conferences. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., we'll have a press conference in this same room here featuring Green candidates running for state and local office. And then at 11 a.m., we will have a press conference featuring Green candidates who are running for the U.S. House and Senate. So please join us here, and they'll both be very interesting programs. On Saturday, as you know, we have the nomination proceedings. That will kick off at 9 a.m. There will be a press conference first. This will all take place at the Holiday Inn Inner Harbor in downtown Baltimore. Press conference will begin at 9 a.m. in the Harbor 2 room. Again, the Harbor 2 room on the 12th floor of the Holiday Inn. The rest of the program is taking place in the Chesapeake room, which is a very large room on the first floor. And we'll have a section for media representatives. So please join us there. We'll have risers for you for good sight lines and everything like that. And then there are no events specifically for the media that are taking place on Sunday. So at this point, I want to turn the program over to Brian Bittner, who is the chair of the Baltimore City Green Party, who can tell you a little bit about the local party and what's going on here.
Thank you, Scott. As Scott mentioned, my name is Brian Bittner. I'm the chair of the Baltimore City Green Party and the local coordinator for the convention here. And on behalf of the Baltimore City Green Party and the Maryland Green Party, we're thrilled to have the media and all of our delegates from across the country here. We hope that you enjoy your time in Baltimore, that everybody gets to learn and share a lot, that we nominate a candidate for President of the United States, and everybody has a great time. And I'd also like to thank the citizens of the city of Baltimore for being such great hosts, because I'm from Baltimore, and I know that we always are whenever there's an event in town. The city really opens its arms to its out-of-town guests, so I'd like to thank Baltimore in advance for doing that again this weekend. And Scott mentioned that we do have an active and thriving Green Party, both on the state level. We have a Maryland Green Party, which has been ballot qualified since 2000, and also the Baltimore City Green Party, which has been recognized central committee of the Maryland Green Party also since 2000. And for that time, we've done pretty well, I think. We've run candidates in every statewide election since the party was recognized. We've run candidates for governor, for U.S. House, and also U.S. House and Senate, and also local candidacies for everything from county council to city councils. We've actually had 5 elected Green Party members serving on city or town councils throughout the state. So we've had a pretty good run of it so far. We've been pretty successful, and with not a lot of some of the barriers that many other state parties have had to deal with. This year, or this election cycle, for the first time since 2000, we have experienced some of those issues. We've been involved in a lawsuit against the State Board of Elections for the past 2 years, which was decided just late in May against us, unfortunately. The State Board requires us to collect a number of signatures every election cycle to maintain our ballot status, and it's a reasonable number, much more than some other states, but the verification process for actually making a signature count as one of that reasonable number was sort of changed. It was reinterpreted after 2010, and we turned in 15,000 signatures against a requirement of 10,000. So we turned in 150% of what we needed. Ended up getting the majority of those 15,000 signatures rejected by the state for simple reasons like filling a name out as Jim instead of James, or as Liz instead of Elizabeth, or even using James as is written on your voter registration card, but not including a middle initial. It turned out that close to 10,000 Marylanders were told that because they used the wrong form of their name or didn't use their middle initial, their desire to see a Green Party nominating candidates, running candidates, having the option to vote for Green parties was not heard. Their signatures were rejected, and we were forced to join with the Libertarian Party of Maryland and file suit against the State Board of Elections. We won the case in the circuit court, but ended up losing the state's appeal in the state's highest court. So we're back in the position of having to collect signatures. It's sort of the hardest requirement we've ever come up against, and it's reminded us of how lucky we had been in Maryland to have relatively easy requirements and procedures for something so simple as running a candidate for any office in the state of Maryland. And it's reminded us how difficult some other states across the country have with much higher signature requirements, other administrative barriers that we weren't used to here in Maryland. So we thank everybody for coming to share their experiences about some of these issues that other states are going through, giving us advice, and helping us. We hope that all of our delegates from other states who are here will take a few minutes one day this weekend to go out, collect a few signatures. It's legal for anyone over the age of 18, regardless of what state you live in, to help us get back on the ballot, which we're definitely on track to do, and I think we will do. So we look forward to being back on the ballot to run great candidates like we've been doing for the past decade, and to bring some life to this town. Baltimore hasn't had a non-Democrat on the city council in close to a century now, over 70 years at least. Baltimore's a city where it seems like a lot of people have given up because a crop of folks from the same organization come in every 4 years and say they're going to make a change. It's going to be different this time. And if you believe that, that's great. We don't want to take the right to vote and the right to run away from Democrats. But if you don't believe it and you want to see more than one option in many districts in Baltimore, you've only got a Democrat to vote for. The Republicans have given up, but we haven't given up. The Green Party has not given up. So we want to be on the ballot to give you good options, and that's what we're here fighting for. And thank you all for coming to enjoy this convention, and we hope to have good news for you before this November. Our nominee that we decide this weekend will be on the ballot. Thank you.
Our annual national meetings and our conventions are the work of one of our most important committees, the Annual National Meeting Committee. And one of the co-chairs is with us, Hillary Kane.
Thank you, Scott. Again, my name is Hillary Kane, and I am one of the delegates coming from another state, not too far, Pennsylvania. And it's a great pleasure to be here in Baltimore and to be here at the kickoff of not only our annual national meeting, but our presidential nominating convention. One of the things that makes the Green Party unique is that we actually have an annual gathering every year, to be a little redundant. So it's not just a 4-year show for us, like some of the other major parties. We get together every single year, not only to take care of important business, in this case nominating our president and vice presidential candidates, but to meet each other and to dialogue and to discuss. Some of the issues that Brian talked about with ballot access are faced by many states around the country, Pennsylvania included. We have some pretty bad ballot access laws that are equally onerous. And so it really helps for us to get together and compare notes and share best practices and lessons learned. So at this convention, we have a variety of activities. We have workshops going on today and tomorrow, both practical, hands-on, skill-type workshops of how to put on press conferences and how to manage donor lists, to dealing with issues. We have workshops on food and the environment, on foreign policy, you name it. We really try to cover the gamut. And it's really also a time for us to build community within the Green Party and to get to know each other from across the country. A lot of us only have email relationships these days, and it's nice to once a year to get together and meet face to face. I think the other thing you'll notice about this convention that might be different from the major parties and their conventions is obviously sort of the size and scale and the glitz and glamour, or sort of lack thereof. We take our values pretty seriously, and in the Green Party, we're very much a grassroots organization. I myself am a volunteer. In fact, this entire meeting was planned almost entirely by volunteers, except for Brian, who also happens to be our national office manager. And so it's very much a grassroots effort. As you know, the Green Party takes no corporate money of any kind. There'll be no swanky events sponsored by, different corporations, and we're fine with that. I mean, we very much want to have a grassroots, people-to-people event that I think, the founding fathers, when they envisioned what real democracy looks like, this is it. People coming together, sitting in meetings, discussing issues, taking votes. And so we'll have our workshops, we'll have our convention on Saturday where we nominate our candidate, we'll have a platform that gets voted on, and take care of some other business. But electing new steering committee members, our internal leadership, and it's really going to be an event sort of by the people, for the people, and not with lots of fancy bells and whistles. So it's been a real pleasure helping to put together this meeting. I myself get a lot of, a boost of energy from coming to these events and meeting fellow Greens and getting reminded about, what it's like to be out there in your state, plugging away against really tough odds. And so it's inspirational to meet folks and to get reminded that, you might feel sometimes that you're the only one in your little part of the world doing your green thing, but there's actually folks all over the country doing the same thing. And so for those of you who are Greens, welcome, and hopefully you'll too get inspired. And for those of you that are guests from the media, thanks so much for attending. And I think with that, I will turn it back over to Scott.
Thanks, Hillary, and I think the entire party really appreciates the tremendous amount of work that you've been doing. You and the other members of the annual national meeting committee have been doing in preparation for the convention. And now we have two members of the Green Party's National Steering Committee. And the first person I will introduce is Tamara Yeager.
Thanks, Scott. And thanks, Baltimore and Brian, for putting all this together. And as Hillary mentioned, this is a great time for us to all get together. I enjoy this. I'm actually from Virginia, too, so we're all neighboring states here. But there are people from all over the country. I'm also on the annual national meeting committee, so I know what goes into these preparations, and it's a lot. But she's right. It's really good that we don't take corporate money and that it is grassroots and we get a chance to be with each other all weekend. Thank you also to UB for the hospitality here. Come to some of the workshops. There's everything from solar energy to abolishing corporate personhood to social media. They're all listed, I think, in your program, and we really want you to come to those too. And you can talk to other Greens when you're there. That's how you get to know all of us. And also want to welcome you to the fundraiser that we have tomorrow night at Metro Gallery. It will be featuring a band, Woven Green, from Virginia. They have donated their services, and Metro Gallery also has, so we appreciate that. And if you have any other questions about media, Scott and Starlene will be here. Thank you.
And one other event I should also mention, to which members of the news media are invited, is a reception this evening, 7 to 8:30 p.m. That will feature international Greens, hosted by the Green Party's International Committee. And we have several interesting people there, including Dr. Joachim Denkinger, Deputy Secretary General of the Greens in the European Parliament, Toussaint Invi from Benin, Rick Leckinger from New Zealand, and Kelly Yen from Taiwan. And this is a reminder that there are green parties existing on countries pretty much on every continent except Antarctica, and some of them are doing quite well. They're represented in national legislatures with very well-known national leaders. The next person who will speak from the steering committee is Darryl Moak. You go, Darryl.
Thank you, Scott. Again, thank you all for being here. The Green Party is a party that is dedicated to making sure that policies and legislation and the work that's needed for our communities is brought from the grass up, and that we are beginning to take back the nature of our country and the work that we're doing, that we are committed to seeing that the 10 key values and our 4 pillars are enacted and brought into legislation so that we can be responsible. It isn't just about being responsible for the environment, but it's also about being responsible for each other. It's great that we want to create an environment where we can live, but we also want to create an environment where we're going to be able to sustain that life and sustain life on the planet. And so our Green Party has infused itself in the way in which we work and the way in which we operate with this concept of ecological wisdom in many ways. And it allows us to use that philosophy and that framework at every step of what we're doing. So when you're talking about legislation, how is this legislation going to affect us, and how does it ripple out beyond just the immediate folks that are here? Which is one of the reasons why corporate donations are challenged and are not accepted, because we want to make sure that the purity of what we're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to do is contained for the people and by the people. Not so much that those with particular interests can make sure that their interests are served only. The only interests that we want to see served are the interests that are important for everyday people, the interests that are important for folks that are struggling, folks that are challenging. We have candidates that have been running for our presidential nomination that have talked about a variety of ways in which we can get America back on track. But it isn't just about getting America back on track. It's also about getting our relationship with the global world back on track. That we are not in this by ourselves, and we cannot be the police of the world, and we cannot solve all the problems on our own. We didn't create all the problems on our own, although we may have a big hand in creating a lot of them that are out there. But we believe that the way in which we do this work means that we have to be in this together. It means that we have to come up with ways that allow for a diversity of opinions and a diversity of ideas to germinate and come to life and come to fruition, and then we will collectively set an agenda that helps move our country forward and move people forward. We want to make sure that there are folks who are able to take care of themselves and their families, to stay in their homes, that they can eat, that they can not have to choose between medication and food. We want to make sure that our children have good schools and that the schools serve the communities that we live in. We want to make sure that the folks that are elected to represent are actually representing the needs of the people and not necessarily just the needs of the people who can give them the most money. So we are most concerned with making sure that everything that we're doing and everything that's happening in the country is being done for the growth and development of the collective body and not individuals. And so in that vein, we gather annually, as was mentioned earlier. Tom Yeager, who is the co-chair of the PCSC, which is the Presidential Presidential Campaign Support Committee. I'm sorry, we have a lot of acronyms all over the place. And they are the ones that help to vet those that want to be candidates for the presidency of the United States of America, and then their vice presidential nominee that comes along with that. So we're very excited about that work. We take this work very seriously. And I think that the most important thing, if you don't take anything else out of the press conferences and out of this weekend, is that this is very serious. We're not playing at politics. We are very concerned about the impact of the political world on our day-to-day lives now and in the future. And so we are in this because we are the alternative. We're in this because we are saying to folks, wherever your political spectrum may have fallen, there's time for a change, and we represent the opportunity for a new change and a new tomorrow. Thank you. Sure.
You last month reported that Romney raised over $100 million. Now, obviously, he's going to use that money for advertising to get his name out. Now, you people don't collect corporate money, it's a mom and pop operation to collect money. How do you expect to compete with that and get your income?
I think that's a very legitimate question. And there are a variety of answers to that question. My answer to that question, which may not be a standard party answer to that question, is that it is incumbent upon us to do the work at the local level, because all politics is local. And so if we go into the local communities and spread the word, and we present a option for folks, and convince people. Here's the challenge with the issue of the money, is that money does not vote. People go into the booths and people vote. And people have a choice. And unless we give them viable choices, they will only vote for the people that they got the most literature from. Right? So if we work very hard to bring that message forward, to share a plan that can work if we work it, then folks will make a choice to vote their conscience and vote for what they believe, and not for the least of the two evils that may be out there, or the least of the many evils that may be out there. So it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of organizing, it takes a lot of on-the-ground movement, it takes a lot of media. And the more access we get to media, to folks like you, the more we appreciate that, and the more we build a better relationship with you, the more you're able to carry our message to the people that are listening and are relying on you for good information.
Let me
Thank you.
take it from here.
Oops, I'm sorry.
At this point, why don't we do a formal question and answer period? And if anybody has questions,
Jill Stein is going to be the nominee for the President of the United States.
yes.
Well, what's realistic? What's your chance to become president?
Her chances of becoming president?
Right, she's running for president. What's your chance to become president?
Her chances of becoming president are pretty low. Her chances of building the Green Party, on the other hand, are pretty strong.
So she's like a rung in the ladder to come up to the top.
In a sense, yes. She is out in front of the public. She is representing what we stand for. She shows people what a green president would look like. And she talks about the things that we talk about. There are a whole list of issues that are not going to get talked about by Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, but green candidates are going to talk about, and she's going to take the lead on that. And of course, she's going to build our state and local parties and promote our state and local candidates as well. And in that sense, she performs a tremendously valuable service to the party, and I think to the public, to let people know that there are options outside of the Democratic and Republican parties.
I mean, the matching funds.
I'm sorry?
I would mention also, I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but in the last 3 weeks, Jill's campaign has secured matching funds in the primary cycle, which I think is the first time
Federal matching
that
funds.
we've
From the
federal matching
Federal
funds
Election
that we've been able
Committee.
to do this, and so that is a huge milestone for us. I mean, that is, I mean, it's not $100 million in 1 month, but it's $100,000, and for us, you know, that's amazing. And I mean, this is what we've been able to do without that kind of money, what we can do with that money, you know, is all the more powerful. And so I think realistically, the goal that many of us are hoping for Jill's campaign is 5% of the vote in November, because I believe that would qualify us as a party for matching funds for the next election cycle. So it is about growing one step at a time, and you know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, as they say. But you know, so far she's really on the right path to really taking us to that next level. Is she the first what?
Is she the first step? I mean, I realize.
No, I mean, she's not our first presidential candidate. So, I mean, we've obviously been running for years. I came into the party in 2000 when Ralph Nader ran, and there are
He's
people.
not a Green Party member, though.
No, but he nonetheless ran on the green ticket and attracted lots of new energy into the party, myself included. And I know there are people in this room who have been in the Green Party for longer than that. But every person that we run brings in new energy and new blood, and those people, you know, stick with it and grow. I mean, that's how it starts. So.
Let me suggest
Yeah.
something else also in answering.
Want to get up?
Yeah, sure. In answering the original question and maybe the follow-up as well, I think sometimes we come at this from the perspective of a deficit model, as we don't have enough to achieve something, as opposed to looking at it from an opportunity model, which says that we have an opportunity to do something different, and every time there's an election in this country, anywhere around the country, everyone has an opportunity to do something different than what they've been doing before. And if the message is out there, if the message is clear, if the message is believable, then folks can take, so Jill's chances are directly related to how much people believe that change can really happen, and how then if we were elected, how the Greens then would work with the other bodies that are elected, because the idea that we'd get a Green president and a Green Congress and a Green Senate all at the same time is probably not going to happen. So how do we work with the other sides of the coin? Other countries do it very well. Some don't do it well at all. But there are models out there where you have multiple parties and they do find a way to work across the board with each other and to build for their nation. And so I think we can do that. And Jill presents one of the strongest messages that we've had to be able to do that. Our previous candidate in the last cycle also presented a strong message, and the candidate before her presented a strong message. And I think what's unique about this party is that we've not just committed to the diversity, but it shows up in very real ways. In terms of our caucuses, in terms of the diversity of the folks on our steering committee, the folks in our party, that the diversity shows up naturally in this process because we're committed to and we're dedicated to it. So I think we have a lot of things going for us and a lot of opportunity there.
I guess we can sum this up as saying that if you came here for a $1,000 a plate dinner, campaign dinner for any of our candidates, you came to the wrong place.
No, we'll figure that out. We'll make it happen.
Any more questions? Yes, sir.
The mention was made of symposiums or conference meetings tomorrow on different subjects, but I don't seem to have gotten a schedule for that. Do you have those available?
Yes, we do. Do you have one of the programs? Okay, we'll get you a program for that.
What's the question about the program?
It's about general programs, workshops, and things like that.
And those are all open to the press?
The policy is that we ask the members of the press to identify themselves at any workshop, so the workshop presenter knows that they're present, and that it's up to the workshop presenter if they want it open to the to reporters. In general, I think workshop presenters have been very very welcoming to members of the media who want to show up. We don't have a whole lot to hide here.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Any more questions? Someone mentioned, Darrell before mentioned Tom Yeager. Tom is back here. Tom, why don't you stand up? Tom is one of the co-chairs of the Presidential Campaign Support Committee. And if you have any specific questions about the nomination process or how people qualify to be presidential candidates, anything related to that, Tom is very willing to talk to you about that. And let's see if there's anybody else. I guess everybody else has been introduced. Any final questions before we close for this press conference? Well, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning early at right here, 9 a.m., where you'll get to meet some of our terrific Green Party candidates.
Tonight at the International.
And of course, the international reception this evening, 7:30, at in the law school, the Law Center lobby, which is right across the street. Thank you.